Welcome to the Back to Life podcast, where we explore living well, loving well, and being well. I'm your host, Nicole, and I invite you to tune in for inspirational conversations to get you back to life. Let's get started. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Back to Life podcast, where we talk about living well, loving well, and being well. I'm your host, Nicole, and I'm so excited that you're joining me for the next stop in our Imagine Me series. If you've been tuning in, you know we've already explored letting go and setting boundaries. But today's episode is all about stepping into something I know we all need more of, and that is confidence. Oh, yes. We are diving into what it means to truly believe in your worth and embrace your unique strengths. So let's be real. Low self-esteem and insecurity can keep us playing small, right? Stuck in the shadows, if you will. But what if you could imagine yourself fully confident, believing in your worth, and walking into every room knowing that you belong there? That's a great picture, right? That's what we're talking about today. So let's get comfy and let's chat about that. But first, let's pause and take a closer look at where low self-esteem even comes from. I want you to think about the last time you doubted yourself. Maybe it was in a meeting at work, during a social gathering, or even just scrolling through social media, which, you know how that could be. And then all of a sudden, you hear this little voice in your head that says, or whispers rather, you know what? I'm not good enough, or you're not good enough, or you don't measure up. Man, where, and then you start to think, where is that coming from? For many of us, our insecurities are rooted in our past experiences, the way we were raised, or even societal expectations. Maybe we were criticized as children or faced constant comparison growing up. These things can stick to us like Velcro and sometimes shape how we see ourselves and even how we show up in the world, even years later. I remember a time when I was so insecure that I wouldn't speak up at school or in meetings at work because I was convinced that nobody cared what I had to say. And I doubted my abilities, even though deep down I knew I had something to offer. I knew there was more for me. But that insecurity kept me from fully stepping into my potential for so long. But you know what? As I began to dig into where those feelings came from, I started to realize that they weren't based on truth. They were based on old narratives that no longer served me. And I knew that that needed to stop and I needed to make a change. So let's ponder this together. How do we silence that inner critic or that little gremlin, the one that constantly tells us that we're not enough? I'll be honest, it's not easy, but it is possible. One strategy that helped me immensely is recognizing that gremlin's voice in my head is just that, a voice. It's not me. It's not the truth. And whenever my inner critic starts to get kind of loud, I start to pause and ask myself, is this a fact or is this fear talking? And you know what? Most of the time, it's fear. And you know what? I know God did not give me a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. So once I can identify that, I'm able to replace those negative thoughts with more empowering ones. And it's so important to kind of distinguish between, to challenge, those thoughts when you can catch yourself and say, wait a minute, where's my mind? Where's this going? What is happening here? And when you challenge that, more times than not, you'll find you're like, this is not true. Another powerful strategy is surrounding yourself with people who lift you up. Let me tell you, your circle matters. And I'm talking about those friends, family members, or mentors who remind you of your worth when you forget. These are people who can, they're standing, they're walking with you, and you're walking with them. It's reciprocal. Your circle really does matter. And if you are fortunate enough to have a few close friends who will check on you when you start to doubt yourself, consider yourself blessed. Because these are the people that will remind you of your strengths. And sometimes we need that outside perspective to help silence that negativity that's kind of stirring inside. And you know what? Let's not forget about social media, because that is a total comparison trap. It's so easy to scroll through Instagram or TikTok or any, whatever your social media of choice, and feel like everyone else has it all together. They're doing so good, and they're doing this, and when's my time, and all of those things. But let me tell you something. Nobody's life is perfect. I don't care how bright the smile is, how perfectly put together the picture looks. All that glitters is not gold, and you don't know what's behind that picture. So what you see online is just a highlight reel. It's a snapshot, but not the whole story. And the moment that I stopped comparing my journey to somebody else's is when I started to feel more at peace with where I was. Kind of bloom where you're planted kind of mindset. All right, now let's prepare to take action. Building authentic confidence is not about pretending to be perfect or always having it together, but it's about showing yourself grace and embracing your worth, flaws and all. One of the most transformative practices that I've adopted is self compassion. Whenever I catch myself being hard on me, I remind myself that I'm human, and we're all going to make mistakes, have setbacks, and struggle sometimes, because, that's life, and we are having a human experience. But that doesn't mean we're not worthy. It just means that this is life for real, and we're living it. Self compassion, though, it allows us to give ourselves the same kindness that we would offer a friend going through a tough time. It's basically talk to yourself as if you would talk to someone you love. And a lot of times, when we are doubting ourselves, or we lack confidence, we can start to have this negative self-talk that can cause, a thought spiral that can take us to some not so nice places. So it's important to kind of recognize, hey, this is a struggle for me right now, and give yourself some grace. And then there are affirmations. Now, I know that some people might think that affirmations are cheesy, but let me tell you, they work. And what you need to know is that affirmations aren't about lying to yourself, but it's about reminding yourself of the truth that you may have forgotten. And this speaks to the core of what affirmations really are. They are a way to reinforce truths about your value, your capabilities, and your worth, especially when insecurity or self doubt tries to cloud your mind. And it is really important to recognize that they remind you of that truth that sometimes gets buried beneath fear or past experiences. I I used to look in the mirror and focus on everything that I didn't like about myself. And when I started to intentionally kind of question that, and then speak and do more affirming conversations toward myself, it shifted how I began to see who I am, and that I am enough. So, one of my favorite affirmations is actually the title of a Luther Vandross song, Never Too Much. And that speaks to the fact that I am enough just as I am. Simple, but powerful. And, when you start your day with affirmations that reinforce your worth, you begin to see yourself differently and you start to believe it. So here's an action step for the week. I want you to write down 3 affirmations that are personally meaningful and that remind you of your worth, and repeat them to yourself every morning. It might feel a little awkward at first, but keep at it. You'll be amazed at how these words begin to reshape how you see yourself. I mean, think about it. It's the repetition of affirmations that leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. It can actually rewire your brain and change the way that you feel about things. It can change the way you feel about yourself, about situations that you face. And just so you know, affirmations can be also those quotes, scriptures, or other inspirational texts that are personally meaningful to you. It's about things that will not only motivate you, but also, like I said, remind you of the truth that you can do this, the truth that things are possible, the things that will move you forward. And so now, as we come to the end of this episode, I want to invite you into a moment of reflection. I want you to think about the last time you doubted yourself or played it small. What were the thoughts that were running through your head? Now, I want you to imagine replacing those thoughts with ones of confidence and of self-worth. Now, imagine that version of you who knows their value and walks in it every day, head high, shoulders back, and just basking in their potential. That's you. And now I want you to take a deep breath with me. In through your nose and then out through your mouth. And I want you to visualize yourself stepping into that confident version of yourself that we just imagined. Picture what your life would look like if you embraced your worth fully without holding back. Imagine you confident. Wow, it's a great picture, isn't it? All right. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I hope you leave this episode feeling empowered, encouraged, and ready to take on, a step towards greater confidence. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. In the next episode of our Imagine Me series, we'll be diving into Imagine Me Renewed, where we will explore the importance of rest and restoration for our emotional health. And that's going to be so important, so you don't want to miss it. Until then, I want you to remember you are worthy, you are enough, and you have so much to offer this world. Thank you for listening. Take care and be well. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. We'd love to hear your thoughts and stories about this series that we're talking about. You can follow us online at our website or on socials, and information about that is in the show notes. Be well.